Welcome everyone to the afternoon session of the Eye2Eye International Film Festival. My name is Ross Peugeot and I have the privilege of being the chair of a remarkable board of people in FAN, Film Access Northumberland. We're honored to put on the Eye2Eye Festival, and part of the festival has always been about bringing to you top quality people having lived top quality careers and sharing their lives and their careers with anecdotes and their expertise. And that's exactly what we have this afternoon. A masterclass with a master, Ron Leach. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what we have to say, what it is that we can learn. And to me, I'm very happy that Film Access Northumberland can share this with you. This is part of our mandate. This is part of our notion of connecting, including, and expanding how it is that we think about the world. And so I can think of no better masterclass to do this than the one you will be experiencing this afternoon. And to launch things off, I would like to introduce another master person, actor Sarah Cleveland, who will talk about what it is that we're going to be witnessing today. Sarah?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Being part of Film Access Northumberland and this Eye2Eye International Film Festival has truly been one of my greatest joys this past year. Cobourg is my hometown. It's where I grew up. I went to high school and actually attended my prom in this very building. So it feels very, very nice to be back. And very wonderful memories. So when I was asked to be part of FAN, or Film Access Northumberland, I was honored and excited of what was being brought to this county. Northumberland is filled with so many artists such as yourselves. So when we just started discussing master classes, it only made sense to have the amazing and extremely talented Ron Leach. But before I get to Ron, I would like to introduce you to our festival director, who will be moderating this master class with Ron, Mark Johnston. Mark is someone who I have had the wonderful pleasure of getting to know over this last year. Mark is full of heart, dedication, love for this town and community, and is truly one of the kindest and most hardworking people I have ever met. When I met Mark last year, it was an instant connection, and as he would say, I loved his energy. So I am quite sure he has been eating, sleeping, and breathing Eye2Eye for the last year just to make sure that we could bring you all a fantastic, immersive, moving, and memorable festival. Mark himself has over 30 years of experience in the industry. He's worked with HGTV, the Food Network, Fusion Television, Alliance Atlantis, and now has his own media company, film production company, or video production company, Elay Media, as well as involved in so many projects and is a talent manager as well. It only makes sense that with his expertise in the industry and his friendship with Ron, that he be on the stage today with Ron. As for this guy who you came to see, Ron Leach, Ron is a brilliant casting director, an award-winning director and writer. He is also a producer and a renowned acting coach with over 30 years in the industry. Now, I don't know if I can do this justice, I swear, but we're sure gonna try. So, Ron has sat on multiple boards, including the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion, the Acme Theatre Company, the Canadian International Animation Festival, the Talent Representatives of Canada, and so much more. Us at Eye2Eye and FAN are thrilled to have this wonderful and talented man not only do today's masterclass, but he was also a judge for our Emerging Filmmakers Showcase. So we can't wait to see what comes of that tomorrow when we have that. Now, Ron has been a juror for the International Emmy Awards, the Canadian Film Awards, the Genie Awards, and so much more. So to say that we are lucky to have him as our judge is a complete understatement. Ron has worked on independent films, theater, commercials. He's worked with Mar Vista Entertainment, Hallmark, CTV, CBS, Paramount, Global Television, and way more that I could possibly even list for you. If that isn't enough, Ron also recently had his screenplay Fadeaway, which has been an official selection in over 40 festivals, if I'm correct, as we discussed yesterday, and has taken home over 20 awards. So clearly, this man is extremely brilliant in every aspect in this industry, and with over 30 years, of course. Aside from helping make beautiful films and helping actors make their dreams come true, through his teaching and his mentoring and casting, Ron has done all of these wonderful things. So I have to say, as an actor myself, I have a true appreciation for what both Ron and Mark are going to offer you today, as well as what they bring to the industry as a whole. You are in for a treat to be able to have these two wonderful men do the masterclass today. And so if we could just do a thank you, please, for having both Mark Johnston and Ron Leach up here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sarah. An absolutely beautiful introduction, and I do feel I need to take a moment to honor someone as talented as Sarah as an artist, because working behind the camera, and I know Ron knows this, that craft of stepping in front of the camera and really diving into a character and bringing story to life and bringing passion to the screen and connecting with an audience is something I can't hold a candle to. So to have someone as remarkable and beautiful and locally grown and nurtured in here in Cobourg as well, Sarah. So thank you for your energy and all you do. Now, before we move on, brother, and I do say brother specifically, as I am not of the lineage, as Richard so beautifully says, I do come from a settler ancestry. And our job here as settlers is to acknowledge the unceded territories. This is something we do very carefully and with great respect. I have been honored to be an apprentice on a medicine path in the southwest of the U.S. in Arizona under the Navajo tradition. So I will speak to you at this point as Silverhawk, my medicine name, with the greatest respect to the grandmothers and grandfathers here on Northumberland County. And I want to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territories of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat-Neo-Wensio nations. And with the greatest respect for those that have cared for this land for time immemorial, we choose to step in integrity and to honor that there have been broken treaties and that we can do better each and every day. And when I walk down to this beautiful lake in our little town here in Cobourg, this is my prayer. I offer to the great spirit ancestors and sacred ones I call out as Silverhawk, and I send a prayer that I am grateful for this day of life, this day of breath, and another opportunity to walk in beauty. And I share that with you with great respect. And in our tradition, those of us that have been exposed to the teachings, Ron, you would be known as an image maker. Image makers are teachers, uncles, grandparents, anyone that influences young people. And when I think of Ron Leach as a warrior in the field of production and film, you certainly carry quite a torch. How many people have you touched in the industry that have lifted their careers because of the wisdom and the insights that you've offered? So thank you for being our master this year in this year's Masterclass, Mr. Leach.
That's very humbling.
And we're on for a journey today. We get to explore with you, brother, the wonderful stories that you bring from around the world, whether it's film festivals, film production, casting, acting, coaching, directing, producing. You have quite a wheelhouse in the industry.
I basically can't keep a job.
And I feel a bit old. We both have about 30 years in the industry, so we're still here, I would say.
We are.
This is good.
And never going away.
Amen, amen. So let us start, because the purpose of the Masterclass is really for our audience to connect with somebody who has the skills and shining that you do in the industry. And thanks again to Sarah for helping to cultivate some of our questions today and really explore, as a guru, as you are in this sector, why you do what you do is a great place to start. I always find it's great for an audience to hear what got you into this crazy business. So I would like to start there, Ron, which is what moment happened in your journey, young as you were in the day, to say, that's the industry I'm going to dive into, I'm going to build my house in that industry, and I'm going to have many artists come through that house that get to learn from what I know in the industry. So what got you into the industry?
I was going to go to university, finish high school, and needed a job. And my sister was a pretty well-established singer, and she was traveling around the country, performing on the CBC and CFRB, and her manager offered me a summer job. His Paul Simmons Management, at 125 DuPont Street in Toronto, and one of my jobs was I had to go every day to the 6 talent agencies that were in Toronto at the time. There are now over 200. But I had to go and visit every agency and pick up checks that had come in that day. So Paul would give me bus fare, 6 bus tickets, and I would go around, and I quickly discovered I could use 1 ticket and get transfers and put all the tickets in my pocket so to go back and forth to work every day. So I was saving money right from the start. I was paid $90 a week. And one of the places I visited every day was the Characters Talent Agency, which is the largest talent agency in Canada. Offices in Vancouver as well as Toronto, and relationships all over the world with sister companies. And Laurie Rotenberg was the sort of face of the company. Larry Goldhar had founded the company and was still working at the CBC or CBLT before transiting fully over to the agency once it was on its feet. And Laurie invited me into his office one day, and I walked out a talent agent. I was 18 years old. And I called up Paul, and he said, he's offered me a job. He said, take it. He says, you're never going to get a better education than you can at the feet of this man. And he was right. And the company was run like a collective back then. Every agent had an oar in the water of every decision the company made. Now it's much more vertically integrated because it's just so huge. It's a company that's making millions of dollars a year. And it's fully compartmentalized. There's a theater division, there's film and commercial division, on-camera commercials as well as voice. I built their sound studio. I didn't know anything about building a sound studio. I ended up getting high as a kite, gluing cork to the walls, and listening to Steely Dan on the sound system, and you just learn. Back then, all we booked were commercials, but slowly our talent started asking us to do other work for them because they were getting their own work in film and television and theater. And we started really getting very heavily involved in theater. But I knew nothing about theater. So I produced a play to learn. And that was the beginning of Manor Productions. We produced about 30 plays in 4 years. Reviews and musicals and comedies and little short dramas and things, lunchbox theater. It was crazy. But I learned all about equity and all about the theater environment to better negotiate on behalf of my clients, right? And the same thing with film. I produced a radio series to learn about that. And so everything I did was to educate myself. And you fall down and make mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes and you get back up,
I do have a question, because they say you never forget your first. So that first play, does it haunt you to this day, or was it a moment terrible. What was it?
It was called Gesundheit.
Oh, bless you.
And it was an expansion on the doctor sketch, and it was a man goes to see a doctor because every time he's confronted with intimacy, he has sneezing fits, right? And the only thing it didn't, and it starred Larry Solway, massive radio star in his day, and Yank Asman. He was on Funny Farm, all these shows at CTV, comedies with Monica Parker and the gang. And it ran for 16 weeks on a little theater called Armando's Dinner Theater on Lombard Street in Toronto. And we were running this show, and it was packed, sold out. And we were happy. And we'd been paying the rent to be in the space every week dutifully. But the landlord, the guy who ran Armando's, had not been paying the landlord. So we went down to work one day, and the place was padlocked. The sheriff had locked up the theater. And my set was inside. all of our materials, our cash box. I had a show sold out, arriving like in 2 hours. I had to find the guy who actually had the lease, who owned the building, and convince him to let me take over not only the theater, but the restaurant. And so I had to cater as well as produce and run the front of house. I remember I was in my ice cream suit, and literally scooping ice cream into parfait glasses. But the staff were so convinced they were not going to get paid. Every day, stuff went missing. And I came in one day, and the giant Gadja coffee machine was gone. Another day, I heard a gunshot approaching the theater, and I ran into the theater, and the front of the cigarette machine was blown open, and all the cigarettes and all the money was gone. And one of the staff shotgunned this thing. And I said, we got to get out of here. So we were given 2 weeks. I asked him for 2 weeks because I needed to give notice, because there was no transfer house. There still is no transfer house in Toronto. And I had to run the theater for 2 weeks in order to be able to get our equity bond back, because we filed our notice and they released the bond, because it was like 10 grand, right? And so, or it would still probably be running, that stinking little show.
Gesundheit by Ron Leach.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, that brings a question to mind, which is years of those kinds of experiences. I know in my own journey that there comes a moment where you're less of the kind of the spoke in the wheel, and you're kind of the center of the wheel, because you've grown as an expert in your field to such a place where you kind of, it's your voice that kind of makes things happen. And I'm curious when that moment happened for you, because you cut your teeth, you fall down, as you say, you learn from mistakes, you keep going, you build your repertoire of skill sets. But then at some point you start to realize, I'm kind of the guy. And I make things happen in people's careers, and that's a gift and an honor and a privilege. So how did you get to that place? I'm still on that journey.
Right now I'm casting 5 films on 3 continents. And I'm casting in the Maldives, I'm casting in South Africa, I'm casting in Brussels, I'm casting in Ottawa and Newfoundland, right? All at the same time, and all remotely, because our business is now completely migrated to digital. We used to, I miss terribly being in the room casting, having actors come in. I used to liken it to having the best train set in the world, and everybody came in to entertain me, right? And I terribly miss that. But I'm so excited by watching the talent present what they think is their best work in a digital format. And they upload to a website, and I log in, I get announcements on my phone, another one's done, and sit and watch it and grade the performances and send notes. So I'm very big on notes. If I see someone doing something that's harming them, I can't shut up about that. And it's because you can tweak a performance with a word. I remember years ago I was doing a TV movie for Showtime, I think it was, called The Blue Moon. And it was about a restaurant on a bluff in the Maritimes, and this family that owned it. And there was a carpetbagger kind of character comes to town, and he ends up falling in love with the spinster sister who's running the restaurant. And everybody thinks he wants the restaurant and he's going to sell it and put up condos and tear it all down. And I had Peter McNeil come in to audition. And Pete was doing a wonderful audition, always. He's such a seasoned professional. But he did his performance, and I said, can I give you one note? Because you're talking about Nora. You're having a confrontation with Nora's sister, who thinks you're a bad guy, but you're in love with Nora. I need to see that you love her, or there's no relationship in the scene. Confrontation scenes are negative. There's negative energy in them, and they're all filled with negative choices. You have to make positive choices. right? And if you're doing a bad thing for good reasons, you're redeemable.
Okay.
Right? He snapped into there, and he's talking to this girl, Cass, and he's looking over there, and he goes, look at her, and his eyes lit up.
From a note. This is from a note.
In an instant, he got the job. In that instant, that glimmer in his eye would travel thousands of miles. And a network executive sat in Los Angeles and loved him as much as I did in that moment. Right? And so, seeing my first casting session I ever ran was for a feature film. And I was having some of my former clients, when I was a talent agent, come into audition. And there's Robert Christie. Now, Robert was a giant in our industry, very famous for his portrayal of John A. MacDonald, which he did everywhere, in theater and on screen. And I was watching him work in the room. So he's live, standing in front of me, and he was doing brilliant work. It was just breathtaking. And then I looked at the monitor to see the live feed, and there was nothing visible. Nothing that he was doing was visible to the screen. And this was the beginning of my class. I just, because in that, I said cut, which is the director's word. You're never supposed to, I was doing a very bad thing. But I said cut. And everybody, the producer and director glowered at me. And I said, I apologize. I know that's your domain, but I got to stop this. And I need to have a word with Bob. And I went up to Bob and I said, Bob, you're playing to us behind the desk. Your audience is behind the camera. And he went, and he articulated himself so he was always looking just up above the camera, just above the lens, and talking to someone back there, which read through as direct communication with the audience. And with that adjustment, he got the job.
Wow.
Right? But they would have been happy with his performance and let him walk out of that room and not get the job.
Nobody wins.
Yes. So I always think it's my job to get the best out of everyone. And I don't care whose feet I trod on to get there. And I'm famous, often have my foot in my mouth as well. But it's for common good.
Understood. Well, and that reminds me, Ron, then you see things from that 30,000-foot view, right? The bird's eye view, that you're watching chemistry, what we would say in the medicine as the alchemy of that moment, the recipe, and something's off. And you choose to step into the space and do something about it. So for those of us that don't understand the difference, casting is a certain skill set, acting coach is a certain skill set, directing, producing, different skill set. You carry all of these arrows, as is said.
Well, I tell everybody I'm a gatekeeper. I think that, I don't make the choice of who gets the job. That's the executive producer or the network or the studio. That's their purview. And directors and producers get overridden by the network or the studio all the time. We don't get our choice. And then we have to fight. Then we take the gloves off if it's worth fighting for. Often we fold like a cheap suit, but just to get the job done. But the casting job is more complex than people. It's not just choosing who gets to audition. You have to understand, most people know that they were right for a role when they see someone else performing the finished work on television, on broadcast, or in a movie theater. And they say, oh, I was better for that. I'd be better for that role. But you don't know that it's even casting because you're not in the game. I taught a masterclass at ACTRA, the Association of Canadian Television and Radio Artists, and it's the union that governs film, television, radio in Canada, and animation and everything. And they have an organization called Acting Your Age, which I adore, and it's for older actors. So they asked me, the organization said, would I come and speak and do a class? And I went, yeah, let's choose 10 actors and I'll put them through their paces. I'll give them scenes, they can learn, get off book, and then we'll do it live casting session in the room for the audience. It was a fantastic workshop, but 67 people showed up for it. They had to open up, they had these sliding doors, walls, and they kept expanding and expanding until I think I sent you a picture. Everybody around this table, and I just said, let's open up this one end and turn it into a big U, and so I can walk and get some distance so I can play the crowd, because I want to have communication with everybody. And then we'll do the performance in a separate studio with a live feed. And I got the list of all the talent that were going to be in the room so that I could pick who was going to audition. So I divided it equally between men and women. And I did from young to 55 to like 95.
Wow.
And so everybody got a sense, right? And I looked everyone up. And less than half of the people were active in the databases for casting. So I couldn't find them if I wanted to. They're not going to show up, right? So I went to Casting Workbook and Breakdown Services, and I told them the plight of these people, and they gave them free membership. And I got everybody signed up. Everybody. And it's one of my proudest things.
Beautiful, Ron.
You know, I'm getting emotional. It's stupid. But it was just a gift to get to do that for these people, as well as teach them how to learn. They stopped learning because they knew it all, but they didn't. The camera is a bugger. It's a two-dimensional medium, and we want to see three-dimensional performances. And it's flat medium. You have to know how to play the space to create depth of field and to identify things. I do a process called mapping. You break a scene down and to its elements. How many people are in it? You know, including people you talk about but are not there. Because they're a character. You wouldn't be talking about them if you didn't know them. What's your relationship with them? Relationship drives the train of our business. And intention defines relationships and conflict.
Beautiful.
Right? And those are the building blocks of scene structure, whether you're a writer or a director or an actor. And you have to be fighting for something, making good choices, and fighting for what you want. And you got to ask yourself, what do I want in the scene? And if you're not fighting for something, you're not going to get the job. It's as simple as that. You're just reciting the words beautifully, you know, and you're pretty, you know, and look like the part. But if you're not fighting for something, it's flat. It's inertia. And you have to overcome that inertia.
Well, that's beautiful, and I do apologize because now I have to go back to that moment that a little verklempt comes forward. And as a former journalist, I'm drawn to explore that with you because what is it in that moment, Mr. Leach, that touches you? Because we haven't really even delved into your passion at a deeper level, and I think that's the place to go. So a moment like that in your career that impacts others' careers.
But I think that you just answered your own question, because when you fight for what you know to be true in your heart and win, it's a reward that I can't quite describe, because you see the picture when the film is made and you look on the screen and you see the results of your labor. We talked about Midnight at Magnolia and how that film, every actor, the two stars are always chosen well before the production is greenlit. And their participation guarantees the money and locks. And so we'll take that risk, $150,000, $200,000, whatever, to pay somebody, and move forward from that point. That's when I get very active. I negotiate those deals, and we got it.
Well, speak of the devil, because you've brought up one of several projects we'd like to share with our audience today, which is Midnight at Magnolia. So why don't we take a moment and let the audience drink this.
Good morning, Chicagoans, and thank you for tuning in to the Windy City Wake Up Radio Show.
You are live with Maggie and Jack.
Every December 26th, Jack's family and my family do our annual post-Christmas dinner at the Magnolia.
Yada, yada, yada. The point is,
Are you bringing Serena?
I'm not even bringing a salad. Are you bringing Hunter?
I don't want to rush this one.
You're stalling.
I'm waiting for the right time.
When is the right time?
Listeners out there, does anyone have any thoughts on this?
Satellite radio just called. They want you to introduce Serena and Hunter to both your families. The New Year's Eve segment live. Come on, this is national exposure we're talking about here.
This is what we've always wanted. Hunter.
What? I just got dumped.
Serena just broke up with me, too.
How are we supposed to do the Meet the Parents segment if we have no dates?
What if you and I surprise the fans by telling them that we are together?
We've known each other our entire lives. We're just friends.
The fans will go wild. It'd be front page news.
Maybe we should be kissing.
Like on the mouth?
Look, we needed to really believe we're a couple.
Just a peck, no theatrics.
Of course, just a peck. I'm not insane.
Stop! Jack!
Mom? Dad?
Kissing!
What about Serena and Hunter?
This is amazing.
We used to prank our families all the time. What's the difference?
So, who made the first move?
Jack.
Who was it?
Me. Did you have any clue everyone wanted us to be together so badly?
None. Although I did hear my mom say something to my dad back in the day, but...
Oh.
You're really smitten, aren't you?
Yeah.
I just want you to be careful. He ditched you last minute to go to prom with Bianca Bell.
Everything feels like it's finally coming together, doesn't it?
It really does.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Jack?
Bianca?
Jack, you have been taking advantage of the fact that you know that I will do anything for you at the drop of a hat.
I've been taking her for granted this whole time. I think I might lose her. And you need to do something.
This was all just a lie, and it wasn't a lie to me.
I never want to wake up without knowing I get to see my best friend, the love of my life.
Are you sure?
I've never been so sure about anything in my life.
Midnight at Magnolia. Ron, beautiful, great project.
It was one of the most fun projects for a lot of different reasons.
Thank
Oh, there you go.
Thank you so much. Ron,
That's
thank you.
mine.
Thank
Sir.
you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
So when we see Midnight at Magnolia, what is it for the audience that, where is your energy in that project?
Well, it's all over it. Evan Williams was my student before he landed Degrassi, and he was a teenager. Now he's 30-something, you know. It's like and a star and a wonderful musician as well. And so that was the first hurdle, was getting Evan hired. We all wanted him, but he'd moved to Los Angeles and had given up his tax status in Canada. We are a subsidized industry, so every actor earns money back from government grants and kickbacks, basically, in tax revenue. And it's a big part of the financing picture. And we have to maintain that. So on all of my breakdowns, it says the actor warrants, which is a legal term, that they are Ontario resident, they are up to date with their taxes, they are COVID inoculated and vaccinated, and they are working as local often in the community where we're shooting the film, because it's a part of the financial logarithm. So we didn't discover, and the agent didn't discover, that he hadn't kept up his tax status. Well, that means we were losing tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, because it's about 35%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We get 25% back on the artist from just because they're Canadian. You know, that's a given. But we would lose the provincial tax credit,
Right.
which is a chunk of change. What I had to do was reverse engineer the taxes and the loss and get Mar Vista as the distribution company to give us what was called breakage. They had decided to move on. And I said, please, please do not do this. Let me find a solution. And the solution was cash. And so they topped up the production fund
Wow.
with the loss and kept Evan. And he makes his chemistry with Natalie is just magical.
It is magical. I can see that.
So and then we moved on to casting. Now, I have to the rest of the cast is decided. The process is you write a breakdown. So I read the script. I break out all the characters by line count. So it creates a descending order from the person who has the most number of lines to the least. The hardest things to cast are the one-line roles, by the way, because they're the hardest thing to make a performance out of because you only got one line. You have to have a moment before, a moment after. You got to make an event happen in the scene.
Right.
But you're often just saying, he went that-a-way. and you know, and we call them he went that-a-way roles. You know, or step and fetch it. You know, like, and it's like, and you write that breakdown and you put all the conditions of hire into each role, and then you send it out via a company like Breakdown Services, and it gets posted, and all the agents in the country and around the globe can see that posting, and then submit their talent that they think is right for it. I see those submissions, I make my short lists of who I want to audition, right? Because when I'm reading the script, I see actors, right? When I read the script, I saw Michael Gordon Shore as the father in that scene. And I was like, he'd be perfect for this. And sure enough, he submitted. And then we went through the process of auditioning everybody, getting their auditions on tape, and then sending that to the network for them to decide who our choices were.
Yes.
You know, and so we put a mini presentation together. We don't let the network see everybody, because who knows, that would be pandemonium. But we want them to lead them in the direction of the kind of movie that we're making. Every single person in this cast was at one point in the process rejected.
Wow.
Every single one. But I wouldn't take them off the presentation. I just moved them to the bottom. And one by one, they bubbled back up to the top.
Wow.
And got the job.
Wow.
Every single person.
That's clever.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because it was going to break my heart to see Pete Dillon not be in this movie, right? And so we had our way with them, so to speak.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then they make the choices. The casting director then negotiates the deal and writes the contract. And I also stay deeply involved in the shooting process.
Yes.
I want to see set reports. If things are happening with my cast that are untowards, I want to know about it.
Brilliant.
Because I want to be able to call the actor or the agent and say, this is going on.
Yeah.
You know, we had a circumstance on a movie we made last year. We knew we were shooting in Ottawa. There was a part of a 70-year-old African and Canadian man in the script who had a very large role, quite a lot of dialogue. And I knew Ottawa didn't have that in its talent pool.
Right.
Not a soul. And I said, we have to budget to bring an actor in from Toronto. And they said, agreed. So we worked all those machinations. And then I presented the actors that I liked. We hired one. Well, and he showed up in Ottawa, and he was wonderful. But we very shortly discovered he was starting to experience onset Alzheimer's.
Oh, wow. Wow. Harsh.
Really harsh. And the decision was to let him go. And I went to the producer and I said, well, that means we have to reshoot what he's already shot, redo all those scenes, redo all those location expenses. It's going to be too expensive. It's going to cost you $100,000 to replace this actor.
Wow.
That is not in the budget. You know, it's cost $85,000 a day to make a film. Realistically, 25, 30 people on the crew, all your cast, you know, the stock, everything you're using, batteries, you know, cost money, and craft service. So I said, I have an actor from my classes in Ottawa. I would like to hire him from the casting budget and have him be this man's eyes and ears.
Wow.
And Nick Gauthier stood out of frame, feeding him his lines.
My gosh, Ron.
Line by line. The entire performance. And took him home to his hotel every night, picked him up every morning, woke him up, and took him to work.
Wow.
And that's how we got that performance.
Brilliant, brother. Brilliant.
You know, because I think we have to be good people.
Oh.
It's not just about making the movie. It's about doing right by the people that are making the movie with you,
Beautiful.
right? And that's why we're charged with the responsibility of forming an ensemble every 3 weeks, anew, right? And it's a challenge, but it's the greatest gift to be able to do this, right? And that's what keeps me going.
Well, it clearly touches your heart, Ron.
Yeah.
And I think that's, your secret sauce is that passion and that care for other humans, especially in the industry, which can, as we say, be very harsh. And something tells me you hear the word agreed very often in your day-to-day work.
Yeah.
And I would see you're somewhat of a chaperone. It's from the moment it begins to the moment it ends.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And there's nothing better than being on set when they say that's a wrap. It's like, oh, we made it. And also, it's just the joy. And when there's a tradition on set, when an actor has done their last scene, everybody the first AD will announce to the crew and the cast that that's a wrap for this individual artist.
Beautiful.
And everyone always gets a standing ovation.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
Respect. And I think in today's industry, we need more of that.
Oh, God, yeah.
Look at the things we've been through between the Me Too movement and some of the horrible things you hear behind the scenes. And, the fact that you are who you are in the industry and you support these remarkable artists that are crafting their skill on a daily basis is a gift. Absolutely.
It's so much fun. It really is a gift. It's just like, and every script is an opportunity. See, I don't just read scripts. I give notes on the scripts that I read because I also write, and I'm a bit of an ass. And I just like, and I have I tell everybody, they say, "What's your skill set?" I have opinions, it's and so I give notes, and my most common note is, "Why is this guy talking?" Why'd you put that scene in there? They went that way. Like, what's going on? This doesn't. If it doesn't further the story, or like the guy who says he went that way is the most important guy in the movie, because nobody knows where the bad guys are.
Right.
Right. And until some guy on a street corner, I do an exercise in my class where I give out a classic scene. He went down that alley, the one line. And the scene is a guy is panhandling on a street corner or standing on a street corner, and he sees some guy go by. And then the good guys show up and go, "Which way did you go?"
Yeah.
Right? And that's the cue. And he goes, "Well, you went down that alley." Right? So, and I give that blind out as a cold read to 10 students in the class. The other 10 students in the class sit and judge their performance, right? So I say, "You're the director, you're the producer, you're the network executive, and you're the writer, so shut up," right? and then because nobody pays attention to the writers. It's true. It's true. Unsung heroes. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have the words, right? And yet sometimes the words get in the way. And to all the actors, I just say next, and they come shuffling in and they do their performance and they sit down, right? And then I get them all to come back up and line up, and I hold my hand over their head to say, "Okay, who would choose this guy, and this guy, and this guy?" And by show of hands. And the tough crowd, and obviously you give somebody a little push. "I'm sorry, honey, you failed."
Yeah.
Right? And boom, go sit down. Not today, right?
Today.
And then I show them. I ask why they gave the job to the one person they give it to, and who was the backup if that person broke a leg in the tradition. And then I say everything they did wrong. And I show them how to do it right. And you watch their faces as the penny falls. You know, everybody auditioning squares himself up to camera. And it's just like, it looks like my passport, I look like the Unabomber. It's really unsettling. You know, you should see my Costco card. It's awful. Those cameras they use at Costco, like, should know better. They have a whole camera department just in aisle 10. Like, go get one of the cameras you sell and give yourself a break. But actors are self-taping at home, and they square themselves up to camera, and they look like the Unabomber. And if you just put yourself on a 45 and then looked at the camera, right, from this shoulder to that shoulder creates depth of field. Turning your head towards the lens, not looking into the lens, creates from my chin to my shoulders, it's a tripod. That's balance. Balance in the frame is stability. It also prevents you from wiggling around, right? Because if you're moving inside the frame, I can't find your eyes. If I can't see your eyes, I can't see your heart. And if you then identify all the things you're talking to or hearing speak to you or creating action, right? I start to see the world your character lives in. So your eyes become the window to your soul and the reflection of the environment that you occupy. Those are the foundations. And when you watch actors, great actors, they don't move. They let the camera come to them. And they're still. You know, you watch George Clooney, you see, you know, Melanie Griffith, you see these wonderful performers, you know, Cher last night. Like, you know, that was a very animated movie.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy, you know, like how much movement there is. And I actually don't like the direction in that film. I love the film, and it's a giggle. Bah, Mamma Mia, for those who weren't here. And where were you? And, but it's a great laugh of a film, and it's buoyant and jubilant. And we need more of that in these days. But I would have completely redirected that movie because they're like when Christine Baranski, when they arrive on the boat. It's all long shots. There's you don't get to close-ups until they're all the way to the top of that damn mountain and in the house. Well, I want to establish a character. I want to see their mug, right? I want to
make that connection.
Make that connection.
Yeah, I hear that.
And establish that relationship right away, right? So I think that was a learning curve.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I have a brief story to share with you, and we've talked about this, that Lindsay Wagner is a good friend of mine who played the Bionic Woman in our day in many, many films. Remarkable human being, and literally the woman you saw in the Bionic Woman is exactly who she is.
Yeah.
Absolute delight. And we spent some time in Los Angeles, she's been up to Toronto, and she shared with me at dinner how she used to audition in the early days, and I've never forgotten this, and I wonder your thoughts on this. She said, and she's quite connected to energy and sensing what's around her. And she said, I would go into the audition, and internally, she would walk into this room full of vultures and say to herself, but energetically to the room, I think I have something very special, and I hope it works out for both of us. And that's how she would step into her auditions. And I thought, what a remarkable moment to say, I'm actually worthy, and I think I have something here, and I really hope it works out for the whole room.
Yeah.
And look where her career took her. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. It does, because you have to understand, the audition process is less about auditioning and more about taking the role. We want, you're the actor coming into the room is we brought you into the room because we thought you could solve our problem. Because I don't have someone to say these words on Tuesday, right? When we're filming. So please alleviate this burden, right? And just be good, right? And so 9 times out of 10, the guy that wins, or the girl who wins the role, didn't screw it up. Because they're good actors. That's why they're in the room. You know, my job is to make sure, my job literally is to surround the director with excellence.
Well said.
You know, like I want every person to be perfection incarnate. And you'll be surprised to know that 20%, maybe 30% of every film, the people that are cast were never submitted by their agents.
Really?
I went digging. I got the submissions, went through them, put my paper cast together, what the session's going to start looking like, and then I start thinking about, well, what about this girl, and what about that guy? Where are they? Why didn't they get submitted? And you call up the agent and you say, hey, are they busy? No. Well, do you want to try and get them this job? And you'll be surprised how fast. I'll be watching the workbook, right? And all of a sudden I'll see the person log on and bing! Like, there's that actor that I just called in. And
I think that's called from your lips to God's ears. Right?
But, you know, I think that's our job, right?
Amen.
You leave no stone unturned.
That's beautiful.
Right? And you'd be surprised also, when I did the Acting Your Age group, I gave them scenes for kids, right, that were written for children, but they could be played by an older person, right? But they all, to a man, they come, well, this isn't, it says I'm 12. I say, well, that's, 12 times what? It doesn't matter.
You're an actor.
Yes, don't play it as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Play it as yourself. What it resonates. Could you be doing this job? Can you be in this relationship opposite the other character in the scene? Yes to both questions, right? And so play it. Show me what you got.
Get in there.
I'll also bring in the 12-year-olds to cover my bum, but 9 times out of 10, they'll see that it's a better way to play because it's more truthful. I want my casts to always look like the lineup at the bank. It's all of humanity.
Wow.
Why can't this person be Muslim? Why can't this person be black? Why is this ages?
Fair.
The Hallmark movies have a formula. We know. And I do cast a lot of Hallmark movies. It's always Christmas in my house. And
it's the holiday, Sarah.
Yeah. So boy meets girl, girl meets boy, start falling in love, something gets in the way, and usually an older actor, parent, or, godfather or whatever, puts them on the right path. Or does something to cause them to come back together. There's always an ex-girlfriend, like in Midnight, who shows up, oh, Jack, boom, fancy meeting you, boom. And the new girl sees this collision happen and reads it the wrong way and breaks up. Right? And then they come back together. Boom.
Classic.
I've got you. Now go write a movie.
Yeah, right.
I just gave you the toy.
Right there.
Right. Yeah. So please write a movie.
There you go.
So the key to making them better than they strive to be is in casting. It's in the art direction, in the locations, give you that look and that feel of small town America or big city Chicago, even though you're shooting in Ottawa or Hamilton or
Cobourg.
Or Cobourg right here. And the tone is the beating heart of the artists. They come together with no pretense, right? They're an open book for the director to direct. And And the director gets to be that engineer. And the smart ones, like Max McGuire, who directed this movie, they have this ability to nudge people towards right decisions.
Beautiful.
You know, Max is a wonderful director. Marita Grabiak, who I'm casting a movie for right now, called Chirp. It's going to be a Hallmark film. And that Marita's a brilliant director. And she does a lot of 911 Houston, you know, those episodes with Ronan and Ronan Rubinstein and I can't drive it. Wonderful actor, plays the lead. Remember the Rat Pack? Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe, yes. From,
I knew I had to go. I had to go with get out the Wayback Machine to find that reference here. And she is also brilliantly gifted. I met her. I cast a movie called Ice Castles. It was shot in Quebec City in the Ice Hotel.
Oh yes, yeah.
Wonderful location, fanciful place, like crazy. And so we're walking around to this whole entire hotel made out of ice.
Good vodka.
And they've set up a shoot. They're dressing the set for one shoot, one scene. And Marita takes me for a walk. And she's walking around, she's showing me the ice hotel. But every room she goes in, she's grabbing pillows and she's grabbing throws and she's loading me down with stuff. And I'm walking along carrying all this stuff. And I said, Marita, what are you doing? She said, well, we're going to shoot this scene next. And then right after that, we're going to move into this room. And we arrived at this room. She said, help me dress it. And so we unpacked all this stuff that we just stole and zhuzhed up this room for the next scene we were going to. And that's how I got to know her.
Oh, delightful.
Right? And her attention to detail was
visionary.
Like spectacular. Right? And so when the actors moved in to that room, they felt at home already because she dressed it for them, for their character.
Again, like you, that's an open heart, that's caring for what's coming next.
Yeah.
I do know we have some other projects to share with the audience too, and we want to talk a bit about discovering people, because I know that's been part of your journey and the lift. An Elephant's Journey is one of the projects that you've brought today that we want to share with the audience. I'm going to suggest that we leave the table where it is. We do a little side shuffle, and we let the audience take this project, and I'd like to hear from Ron Leach what that project was for him.
Hi, Phoenix. We can't wait to see you. Uncle Jack says he can't wait to take you on safari.
Phoenix! Hey! How's your flight?
Welcome to Africa. Tomorrow, a group of us are going on a little safari.
Oh, I'd love to go. Love animals.
We're going to be heading out soon.
Uncle Jack! Are you there? Anyone?
When all seems lost,
Where is he?
We will find him, I promise you.
He only arrived yesterday. He's out there all alone.
find your courage.
I can help you. I'm Phoenix. There you go, boy. I think this means we're friends now.
I want you to find whoever cut those ropes. No one gets paid if we don't make our quota.
Run! Cannot survive alone.
And find your way back home.
I have to get back to my aunt. She must be worried sick about me. I've been gone so long.
That herd is worth millions in ivory. Find that boy now!
Good boy!
This is not the ordinary elephant.
We have to stop this. Nothing can stop us!
An Elephant's Journey.
Well, Mr. Leach, I know your hands were all over that project, and I'm curious to know what that meant to you in your career and how you shifted the trajectory of a project that came to you as such.
So, the first mission was to try and get Elizabeth Hurley. This is a low-budget film. Elizabeth Hurley makes millions of dollars per picture. But I had this script called Phoenix Rider in the Elephant Adventure. Phoenix was the Sam Ash Arnold role. And about a boy lost in the African veldt. And absolutely, Richard Boddington wrote and directed this. He also produced. And I love Richard. We've made 7 movies together. Wow. And loyal, true blue, big-hearted guy. And like crazy smart. And because he produces his own movies, and finances them himself. How do we get Elizabeth Hurley, right? Her minimum is going to be $1.5 million to work on anything. But she has a charity to rescue elephants.
Oh, wow. Sweeten the
What
pot.
if we offered to shoot an infomercial for the charity while we're in South Africa? And they called Elizabeth Hurley, her agent wasn't even going to read the script.
Yeah.
But the charity called Elizabeth and told them all about it, and she will send me the script.
Wow.
And then she's on the phone to Richard directly.
Yes.
And it didn't matter that we didn't have any money. She was going to make this movie.
Wow.
And so then we have our star. We have the money shot, so to speak. And she was only in South Africa for like a week.
Yes.
We shoot her out.
Of course.
And do all those scenes. And the big job was the boy, finding the right boy. Well, I was at the Cannes Film Fest, not Cannes as in France, Canadian Film Festival in Toronto, run by a couple of wonderful filmmakers who just started this thing to foster Canadian film, just the way you're doing here. And I saw this short film that was shot up in Peterborough, and there's literally a silent role. There's a 10-year-old boy, and I couldn't take my eyes off this kid. He was just mesmerizing. And I made a note of his name. And I'm in the lobby during the intermission, waiting for my popcorn, and I see a woman on the far side of the lobby. And I went, So I walked over to her and I said, "Are you that boy's mother?" And she went, "Yes, I am." She said, "How do you know that?" She said, "Well, you have the same eyes."
Oh my gosh.
And next thing I know, I'm meeting Sam.
Wow.
And he's now 12.
Yeah.
Exactly the age of the character. And he was a polite, charming, unbelievably dedicated actor.
Little Canadian actor.
Like crazy.
Wow.
And so I set up a meeting for him to meet Richard Boddington in my home, in my apartment. He Richard lives in Parry Sound, so he drove down from Parry Sound. Sam drove down with his mom from Peterborough.
Yeah.
And we had tea in my apartment.
As one
I think
does.
Sam had a pop. And Richard fell in love with him right then and there. But he wasn't, we weren't ready to go, right? Now, Richard's a bit of a bug. He loves, he tracks all these kids who are bubbling up through TikTok and Telegram and all these websites, you know, and they've got huge following, they're influencers, but they're 10 and 12 years old. Like, what's happening in the world?
What a world.
And so he was still looking at that. And he was enamored of a kid who had 1 million followers. Sam had me. And I was his follower. And so we were locking Elizabeth, and I was trying to keep Sam in the game, and trying to make Richard not make that other choice.
I hear you.
Well, along comes another movie called High Rise Rescue, about a boy and his dad who are trapped in a penthouse suite of a condominium that's on fire. And the building's burning from the ground up towards them, and they can't get out. And Rob Vaughn, wonderful director, was producing and directing it. And so I set up another meeting. And for Rob to meet Sam. And like, without even a reading, hired. He just, based upon my extolling Sam's virtues and him having a personal meeting with him, he hired him.
Wow.
Well, then Rob knew about the Elephant Project.
Yes.
Because I was casting it and knew that Sam was up, and Sam was telling him he was up for this role.
Yeah.
And Rob called me and said, "What's going on with that other movie?" He said, "Well, Richard hasn't made a decision yet." He said, "Well, this kid is fantastic. I can't tell you how fantastic he is." I said, "I told you, remember?" And he goes, "Yeah." So now, when a movie's being made, no one gets to see any part of it, especially when they're not part of the team.
Understood.
Rob Vaughn pulled key scenes, uncorrected footage, and sent it unsolicited to Richard.
Wow.
And Richard looked at the scenes. He said, "I gotta have this kid."
Mic drop.
Yeah, it was a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
And then Sam gets to go to Africa, learn how. He goes like 3 weeks before the start of production so he can learn how to ride an elephant.
Oh my gosh.
And he was working with panthers and leopards, and like, it's the adventure of a lifetime.
I believe they have a zoo in Peterborough. So, you know, that might have been the closest exposure he would have had.
That's as close.
What a journey. But yeah, here's my question to you, Mr. Leach. You saw this young man, child, in a silent part.
Yes.
And you knew something without a moment of dialogue.
He was communicating with me every second that he was on the screen.
Wow.
Even though he had no dialogue. He had intention. He played a range of emotions. And I just knew. You know, and you can tell. When we used to do in-room casting, you know, and God help us, we can get back to it. I'm very fearful we won't get back to it.
You think, yeah?
Well, the problem is, it costs thousands of dollars to cast in person. Renting a studio is $100 an hour. The reader is it's a union job to read for an audition. Costs $32 an hour.
Yep.
It's a good gig.
Yeah.
And then the assistant is $20, and the cameraman is $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And so, on average, you're spending $1,000 a day or more, like $1,600 a day to cast. And then I'm, you know, not a cheap suit.
Right.
And so, you know, and you add up the costs. 4 days of casting is $8,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy.
All budget.
And the director has to be in the room, the producer has to be in the room, their time is money.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, we do everything remotely. We send the sides to we choose the actors by click of a button. We send them the sides internally through the device of the EcoCast, and then they upload their own performance. No cost. It's all free. I know producers.
I happen to be one.
Yeah. And you cheap bastards are not going to want to go back to that.
True enough. Why would I go back to that?
Spend that money.
Yeah.
And I can tell you why. Many, many, many fine actors don't know how to judge their own performance. They're looking at the wrong things in their auditions that they self-tape. And self-taping denies us the opportunity to see people at their best.
Oh, and chemistry,
When they walk into the room and they'll do a performance just like Robert Christie. Bob, stop playing to the room. Your audience is on the other side of that camera. And you have to make the camera your friend to unlock your potential. Right? And so that's what we miss. I can give them direction. I can send them notes. Can you redo this?
Yes.
And I do this all the time. But it's in a text message or an email. It lacks that winking at somebody when they're just about to perform and giving them that confidence.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well said.
That you're on their side. Right?
It's connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The human connection.
Yeah, beautiful.
And the technology gets in the front of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your point, we're both of an age, and I think we watch our nieces and nephews.
I'm regressing.
Well, God bless you for that. My hairline's regressing. I would say that
Mine sailed.
I do know we also want to open up for questions in a few moments too, because the audience, I'm sure, will have some things to ask the illustrious Ron Leach. But I do know as well we have a third project that you've brought with us today to share.
It's one of my shorts.
As a matter of fact, I believe it is. And I know Graham, who's been masterminding everything from behind the scenes, will have that queued up for us. So why don't we take a journey through this short, and you'll share with us a little bit about the project. We'll play the clip. We'll talk about what it's done for you and your career, and how you impacted the project. And then perhaps we'll take some questions from the audience.
Right.
Thank you, Graham.
Okay. So, Love Is began as an essay. Chris Lockhart, who produced the film with me, wrote an essay. He had a couple of guys, and they used to get together and throw ideas out, and they'd write stuff, and they took it as a challenge.
Yes.
And it began as an essay called "What Is Love." So obviously, Chris was probably having some issues with dating, and wrote this internal dialogue.
Yeah.
I read it. He said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "This is wonderful, but it should be a film." And he goes, "How are you going to turn that into a film?" I said, "I'm going to make it into an internal dialogue of a girl who's questioning the choices she's made." And so I took every stanza of the essay and turned it into an individual relationship with a past love. And she keeps circling back to the guy who got away, the love of her life. And so I cast all the guys, cast all the friends, cast the dog who almost steals the movie, and because it's the only relationship she can rely on.
Oh, wow.
Right?
No
and
comment.
I had a windfall with the actress because she had 8mm footage of her dancing with her father when she was 8 years old.
Wow.
So the film is shot on 8mm film, Super 16, a D9 Canon camera, a red camera with a set of prime lenses, and a Bolex.
Wow, a Bolex.
Yeah.
Wow.
And hand crank Bolex.
Yeah.
And I shot, what I did was I shot every relationship on a camera that would have been around when the relationship was happening.
Authenticity.
So we went from the state of the art backwards.
That's great.
Through all of her relationships. Now that was a conceit of mine because I just wanted to mess around, as a director, and then figure out how to conform it.
Yeah.
And then I went to two friends of mine who were also students of mine in my acting classes, and because I knew they were getting into writing music. They were wonderful musical theater performers. And I said, "Do you want to write a score?" And they went, "Yeah." And I went, "Okay, here's my challenge. I need you to write a theme song for this girl. Right? And then I want you to write a theme song for every guy." And I showed them the footage. I showed them, I'd cut the film by then.
Different chapters.
But it's all silent. It's all shot silent, no dialogue. And we just recorded the narration of her. And so I said, what I want to happen is we are introduced to this girl, and we establish her theme song. Then a guy comes in, and his theme song is not dissimilar, but it's distinctive. And as the relationship ends, a trailing element of his theme song attaches to her. And we build and build and build throughout the film until it's a crescendo, and it's a symphony by the end. So every introing and exiting every relationship, I burn out to white, or I cut to white. So I want the light, and light dawning.
Yes.
And that reached its pinnacle. We were shooting on a skating rink behind Humber College in Toronto, a big figure-8 skating rink that the fire department comes in and sprays the walkway, the trail. And it was a very, very cloudy winter day. It was freezing cold. February. Ugh. And we were all like standing there freezing. Took us off, and I was shooting. Oh, we also shot on a iPhone.
Just for good measure.
Forgotten. And so I'm looking at this cloud. It was bugging me. It was the end of the day, you know, when the sun is setting like at 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I suddenly realized the cloud was hanging very low in the sky, but the sun was coming down. It was about to peek out from behind the clouds. And I went, here's my money shot. So I yelled at my 2 actors to skate out to the far side of the rink. And I said, when I cue you, I want you to skate past. So we had 2 cameras going, the red camera and the D9. My cameraman, who was a wicked good skater, hockey guy, was on the ice holding the D9. And sure enough, boom, the sun comes down, and it's bullion. It's gold. It's magic hour lighting, like crazy good. And they come skating across. I told them to skate far away, keep on the far side of the rink. So that they would come past the camera.
Why is that?
Because I wanted this shot. I needed it to be slightly out of focus.
Okay.
I was shooting with long lenses. And so they come and they're skating. We see them arm in arm. They're skating along. Let's say like the bishop's wife, you know. And they're coming across, and they're all backlit with gold. And it's a gorgeous shot, if I do say so myself. As they come past the lens, my camera guy, he's there shooting. He's looking through the lens. And I reached up. He didn't even know that I was there. I reached up and I took the lens off the camera.
Oh gosh, wow.
And it just like, you see it goes, shh, burns out to white.
Wides right out, yeah, beautiful.
Right.
Wow.
And that was my exit.
Wow.
For that relationship.
May we see the film?
Yep.
Excellent.
I can't feel him. I can't think. I can't function. What brings happiness into my life? If I can't accept myself, how can I accept others for who they are? I just don't get people. They're so confusing, so selfish, so inconsiderate. Why do we look to others to bring happiness for us when all we get is disappointment? I could live strong, free, independent, my own way of living to the fullest. Connect with people. I've tried so many ways to understand, to feel wanted, to open up and allow others in. I see my time time wasting by as I watched my clock tick-tock its way into an uncertain future. I'm losing time, sleep, sanity, just thinking about how to find my true love. But I keep finding the same emptiness over and over again. I feel old, weak, brittle and absent. I know I'm gonna end up being alone. What is so wrong with that? I wouldn't have to get close.
I wouldn't have to get
hurt
close.
and suffer
Get
from
hurt and
others.
suffer from others.
Is that destiny? Or do we just walk this earth alone, finding our own paths in the hopes that someday we will find another? Will love ever make sense? What do I sacrifice in order to accomplish that freedom? Support? Foundation? Comfort? And the possibility of love? Should I take the chance? Allow myself to get close? To feel alive? Or should I embrace the warmth of my own company? These decisions are too hard to make. The choices that I make always lead to mistakes, regret, and denial. Should we live our life in regret? What has happened to the art of chivalry?
What has happened to the ocean?
Did it ever exist, or did we just invent it to give us hope that people can become better at who they are? I can live my life better. I can live for others. But why should I? I don't get that commitment and support from people who want to be connected in my life. Are we really meant to spend our entire lives with another soul? The only truth is that there are no answers. But what is the question? Do we need to force ourselves to ask the right questions? Or should we have faith that the world will deliver the answers that we seek as we live our lives day to day? interactions with others amount to anything significant? Can we use it to understand how to feel happiness?
To understand how to feel happiness.
All I know at this point, I need to find solace in the decisions that I've made. I must trust myself. Love will be there when I need it.
Well done, sir. That, a charming journey, Ron, and to hear the backstory before seeing the film is a real treat for us to understand the music. Now I understood it a deeper way, and the concept of the relationships and how it impacts her, and is it Charlie, who I'll now follow on Instagram?
Charlie was a star. Chester.
Chester.
Who played Charlie. I found Chester on Craigslist. I put an ad on Craigslist looking for a dog to be in a movie.
Oh, that's great.
And this girl called up and she said, I got a dog. He's great.
Wow.
Everybody
Wow.
loves him. and everybody did.
Wow.
And he was like, you know how all those shots when he's looking back and forth over when they're having the argument?
Yeah.
That I'm standing on top of the island, and I'm holding his ball, his favorite toy, and I'm doing this. And he's like,
oh, that's great. That's
like,
great.
Perfect.
As long as you're not doing that with the actors too, we're in good shape then.
Well,
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I brought everybody back, so without anybody knowing, I brought all the male actors back. And I recorded the last line of her dialogue of their relationship with them both. And I dropped the guy, him saying the line, the exit line, as a echo, just a beat behind her.
Yeah.
Because I thought, most relationships fail because people don't talk.
Yeah, true that.
And if they were, the irony was they were thinking the same thing.
Yes, what a gift.
Right.
What a gift. Wow, beautifully done. I know also, Ron, thanks for putting your time and energy into helping us with the Emerging Filmmakers program, because that's tomorrow, and your voice has been a key part of taking in the jurying that's happened as well. So to understand your history, your shining, and then to know that you're helping emerging filmmakers, we want to say on behalf of the committee, thank you for what you're doing.
Pleasure.
Absolutely.
It was a great
Absolutely.
story. Yeah.
I do want to offer an opportunity for anyone in the audience to step into my shoes and just get to journey with you. So, well, perhaps
I want to add one little postscript on that movie.
Yeah, please.
Film is an expensive medium. We've discovered that during the lecture or our Q&A. That film's budget on paper was $84,000. Okay. Right? You know, there's 30 actors overall in the movie, you know, party scenes and everything else. And we've got a lot of action going on. We shot in multiple locations. It was shot in 48 hours.
Wow.
In about 22 locations.
Wow.
Because there's her loft.
Yeah.
You know, there's that's my apartment in the Christmas scene. And in the lovemaking scene of against the club chair, and that beautiful shot of the window. And we delivered the film in processed, fully paid for $2,400.
Excuse me?
$2,400.
Wow.
And I teach a master class. I use this film to teach a master class in filmmaking. And I've done it at multiple universities in Oaxaca and in Los Angeles and at the Vancouver Film School. And I use this as a case study. I show them how I budgeted it, how I went through. I use Universal Studios. Sam Kitt was a dear friend of mine, head of production at Universal. And he gave me their standard budget form that they require all their filmmakers to provide. Now it's like 30 pages, right? Because it's a studio picture. But I learned so much by asking myself, do I need this? Right?
Wow.
Like going through the budget and saying, oh, is that something I need? But what is that? You know, and then teaching, constantly learning. And then applying through my network of friends and family and suckers to get people to pay for things. Can I borrow that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So all the gear was borrowed.
Wow.
All the gear. all the gaff,
Brilliant.
all the beer, everything.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's not budgeted for was when we were wrapping out of my apartment, my ex was hanging around to help.
Yeah.
And he ended up opening a bottle of wine. And so I was downstairs loading some gear back into the truck. And I came up and everybody had a glass of wine. I said, where'd the wine come from? And Kingsley says to me, he says, oh, I found there was a case in your locker. I thought they'd like a drink. And I said,
which wine?
Which wine? And I was like, I was mad as hell. Because I was saving that. I was laid up for a reason. It was really rare. But everybody was happy.
I'm sure there were.
Yeah, but I didn't include it in the budget.
Oh, fair enough.
It was my
fair
donation.
enough. Yeah.
Because I couldn't value it.
Well, I understand. Brilliant.
I would cry.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
But it just, my point in saying this was that nothing is stopping you from making a movie if you just put your mind to it. I premiered I made a film called Gay Basher. It's a proof for a feature film I want to make. And because I've written the script, I want to make this movie. And it's about a young gay man who sees bad things going on in the gay community in a big city. And he takes it upon himself. He becomes overwhelmed with guilt because he didn't interfere when he had a chance to. And a boy has gone missing as a result of him not wanting to participate or get involved. He's overwhelmed with guilt. He starts hunting for this boy in the dark underbelly of the big city, places that he's not used to. He stands out like a sore thumb. He's a successful young guy. He's got money, he's nice shoes, and he's going into places he shouldn't be. And in confronting these people, he becomes an urban vigilante.
Wow.
And the climax scene, he's beating this guy up who's a bad, bad, bad man. And this guy goes, hey, he says, I'm not a gay. He's pleading for his life now. And he says, I'm not a gay basher, right? And our young hero, who's gay, says, I know, I am.
Oh.
Right? Because he wants to take that word back.
I see.
Right?
Yeah, well,
and give it power for the community. And that's my conceit.
Wow.
You know, and so we made this movie. I premiered it at Palm Springs, California, to a sold-out house. And there was a Q&A after, like we're about to hopefully get to. And there was this one man in the audience, Asian gentleman, and he put up his hand. He started asking very detailed questions about the budgeting and the shots and the effects that are in this movie. And I said, well, you're obviously in the business. And he goes, yeah, I have some experience. And he says, I'm trying to figure out how you're ever going to make your money back on this short. And he goes, why? I said, why? He said, well, obviously it cost about $70,000. And I go, well, why do you say that? And he rhymed off all the departments and all the budget items, like in his head. So I said, okay, you're obviously a comptroller of a studio.
Yeah.
And he goes, yes, I work for Sony Pictures. And he was the head of production.
Jeez.
And I said, would you surprise you to know that I made this movie for $1,800?
Canadian.
He said, yeah, like that's Canadian Tire money. And to him, and he was like, his jaw dropped. He said, how? I said, everybody volunteered. All the equipment was loaned. And it was post-produced. All the editing, color correction was all done for free at Rank Laboratories in Toronto. I just, I go through my Rolodex. I'm dating myself by saying that, but I go through the Rolodex and connections.
Yes.
And if you don't know somebody, ask somebody who does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And if people catch your dreams, they'll follow you anywhere.
I love that, Ron. You are the Pied Piper, sir, in a very beautiful way. So let us open this up to anyone in the audience that would like to ask some questions of our Masterclass teacher, Ron Leach. I know we have a microphone on the this side of the house, I will say. Ross, do you have a question?
I do have a question. The mic is coming on. Thank you, Mr. Leach. Wonderful, wonderful masterclass. And thank you for giving us insights into what really goes in behind the glitz and the glamour that we as an audience see on the screen. In fact, there's much more obviously behind it. One thing that intrigued me, though, that you said that as a casting director, you don't just stop after you've casted something. You want to hear back notes from the sets on how your people are doing. And so my question is, what happens when the notes come back and they're negative? That the behavior is bad or the performance is bad? What can you do as the casting?
Well, the person who's misbehaving gets a free personality assessment from me. I don't want anybody to not be upbraided if they're misbehaving. Because it only takes one person to poison the well and ruin the experience for everybody else. And if somebody's congenitally late, it puts everybody else behind. If somebody is a grumpy Gus and they're complaining all the time, it leads other people, because misery loves company. And then suddenly everybody finds something to have a problem with, right? And see, I don't want that on my sets. And I let people know that I know that this happened, I think it's inappropriate, and I don't want it ever to happen again. And maybe I will put them on an island for a while. And I'll wait until I hear that they're behaving better. And let other people make mistakes in hiring them, or prove that I'm wrong in isolating them. But I think it's important that everybody, because not everybody gets to do what we do, and it's a gift. And if you approach it from the bottom, you don't want to be on my team, right? I don't want you to be anywhere near my business. But if you approach it from the top, and you look at every opportunity is a gift, an opportunity to learn. If you're an extra on a set, don't hang around the craft service table. Like, keep an eye on the first AD. Learn what the DOP does. Henry Fonda, when he was shooting High Rise Inferno or some, disaster movie in Montreal, I was involved in that film. I got to go on set, and I saw the great man himself, Henry Fonda. Now, that in itself was worth everything I was paid to just be able to have that relationship. But I was interested because he showed up with the crew every morning. And he walked the set with the DOP when they were lighting it, because he wanted to know where he was in this universe. So he was old and he was tired, but he would know exactly when the camera would swish pan across and he was not in the frame, and he would sit back and relax. And then as it was panning back, years fell off his body. His chest pumped up and he rose to the fire chief's stature. And it was a lesson in acting that was just invaluable. And he would cant his head and the light would catch his eyes, because he knew where that light was. And he was just, by raising his chin, that sparkle happened. These beautiful, beautiful blue-gray eyes. Like stunning. But he had learned to do this when he was moving from theater into film. And he needed to know the machinations of film to be a good actor at it, right? And you have the opportunity, and you're being paid to be on set. That's a learning experience. And it's an organic experience. And just discovering what the hierarchical command structure is on set is worth its weight in gold. How we make film. Because then you fit into the family of filmmakers, right? And when you go to make your own, you'll be prepared.
Beautiful. Again, alchemy. Where do you fit in the alchemy of making a film, brother? That's great. Any other questions from anyone in the audience that would like to ask Ron about his journey or insights? Or yes.
Come up to the mic, because they want to get you.
Thank you.
Get you on tape.
I'm kind of gobsmacked at how fabulous you are with regards to caretaking the individuals that entrust themselves to you. And the storytelling, I mean, really, it's just beautiful. I feel like in some ways we're like related, because your sense of empathy is just so inspiring. And I feel like you get storytelling, because the heart of every story is the empathetic, right?
Yes.
Everything that is happening to your main character, whether it be the written word, whether it be on film, or whether it be a piece of art, you know, that thing that's there is to evoke some sense of meaning, of resonance. And I feel like whoever you caretake, they have a companion, and it's a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to say, so much. I think, I'm not an actor, but I would think any actor who gets to work with you is very, very lucky.
Oh, that's very cool.
Beautiful.
So
well said. Well said.
Really lovely masterclass. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I have one or two more little ditties myself, but I just want to provide another opportunity if there's anyone else in the audience. Yes.
Right here?
Yes. Well, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you both for your time today. I really enjoyed being here and was very inspired by you, Mr. Leach. I'm a new actress in my later years to the industry, and you've really inspired me more to just continue on my journey. Because there's many times when you think you're doing amazing work and you can hardly wait to hear back, and you don't. And it's like, okay, my agent loves me, I've got to be doing something right, so keep going with it, but we're not hearing something back. So my question, I guess, is twofold, is that you have so many thumbnails of people to look at. how do I get to be on your radar so that, what do I need to do so that you'll even look at or see my thumbnail and say, okay, I want to see what she can do for me because I want to shine for you. I want that opportunity. And then I'd like to know what it is you're looking from me to do even better.
Beautiful.
That's a multifaceted question. First and foremost, you have to have a ticket to win the lottery. So you have to be part of all these systems. Casting Workbook, Breakdown Services, Now Casting are all databases that we use for casting. Yeah. If you have to have a splash page with your pictures and resume up there. You can also upload demo reels, performances. Some actors, when they're starting out, if they've got good auditions that they've done for other productions, they upload those and use them as their demo material. Yeah. So I can see you talking, acting, being present, and engaged. So until you can replace it with work done, you use audition material to promote yourself, or make your own projects. We've discussed that, and write a script. I used to be a member. We had an organization in Toronto called the Blue Flame. It was the brainchild of Everett Houston and Oliver Ward, and wonderful filmmakers. And it was kind of an extension of my class. Most of the people who founded and participated in the Blue Flame Collective were students of mine who basically had taken all my classes but kept going by forming their own group that met on Monday evenings to read scripts and do scenes, critique their own work, and promote themselves and create relationships, stronger relationships. Then they decided to make films, and they gave themselves a task everybody was going to make a 1-minute movie. And they invited guys like me and DOPs and musicians and composers editors to come and see the projects and attach themselves as volunteers to make these movies. And we made 28 films in 2 years. And those films went around the world. I made 4 of them, and they all won awards at different film festivals. And they all were used to promote then the talent and showcase their range. And it was fantastic. It was such a joyful experience but I made She Is Swimming was part of the Blue Flame Collective. The Kiss, Death by Sushi. And what was the other one? And Profile. Profile was the only one that came in on time. And it's my take on Red Riding Hood, written by Steve Bauer. And it was about people meeting on a dating service, and they were going to meet for the first time, and it kind of goes terribly wrong. But you think it's going terribly right until it doesn't, But, that was all made, we only spent craft service, It was a spectacular experiment.
So deepening your connection to community and allies and collaborators and creating content, I'm hearing, Ron, which is beautiful. So it's a wonderful question because I think that's...
Well, it opens up layer upon layer.
Yeah.
So having a great relationship with your agent and getting your agent to put you out for things that are appropriate. A lot of people reach beyond their grasp. I can't get approval to hire you for a leading role if it's a network show, because they want people with resumes and with an audience already established. So reach. If you're starting out as an actor, go after the 1-line roles, the 3-line roles. Start, and do extra work until you shouldn't do it, right? Just for the learning experience and to line your pockets. And spend that money, reinvest that money in classes and a demo reel, a voice reel. Look, these are the tools. As an actor, you're running a corner store, right? You're a business. And you need to have traffic. That's me coming in and out of your door, right? And so you have to attract traffic. That's your marketing materials. That's your agent is basically your manager, store manager. He's stocking the shelves and putting the pricing on, right? Negotiating those deals. So, but attracting me into the door means don't advertise yourself correctly, right? So I remember I put a breakdown out once, and I decided, because it was a non-union picture, I needed to know more people than the agents were repping. So I put it on Actors Access, which is an open forum, anybody can submit. But I didn't realize it was going to go everywhere. And so I had and it's a Canadian project, low budget. We're not going to fly people in. We're not going to put them up in a hotel. You're not going to get per diem, for God's sakes, And it says all that in the breakdown. And yet I was having people from South Carolina, one guy in particular, who nominated himself for absolutely every single role in the breakdown, even the children. Well,
right.
But
you started that.
But he couldn't, because we also knew his parents were in the movie. So he was going to have to be 12. And you can't act 12, except mentally. And so, but the problem is, every time I opened the file, there was his mug staring at me on my screen, and it was like chafing, right? It bugged me so much. When I told the people at Breakdown Services that he had done this, they removed it. And also removed him from their database. They said, you have to be a good corporate citizen, right? So long story short is, I can take risks on the smaller roles. The larger the role, I have to make sure somebody with set experience is not going to be learning how to act in that role, because it's going to take up too much time. We put a movie in the can for Hallmark or Lifetime. It's a 14-day shoot for a 90-minute film.
Wow.
That's a lot of pages a day that we have to go through. We only get 14 days, and the scripts are roughly 100 pages. Right? So that's a huge workload, and it's always against the gun of the clock. Losing our light,
I love your idea about putting the auditions on there, because he's like, this is a callback for sure.
Yeah.
Or this one's really good. This was tough and you nailed it. So,
Yeah.
like, if I'm getting feedback like that from my agent, it's got to be something.
Precisely.
Absolutely.
So
The other thing you can do is think about the films that you love and that you would love to have been in, but this other star was already doing it, right, before you were in the business. See, you can download every script in the world. There's multiple websites. You can go and you can download Schindler's List. You can download, the latest blockbuster, the Hollywood Black Book. Those films are published, and they're accessible. You can get them and pick a scene, shoot it, and use it as demo material.
That's brilliant.
Right?
Brilliant.
Because use good source material, right? The better the source material, and you pick some really good but obscure films, films that have been out of circulation for a while. One thing I always ask, so it drives me crazy that people who want to be in film, don't watch movies. Like, what the hell? When the 100th anniversary of René Lumière inventing the film camera and the motion picture at the Paris exhibition, where it made its debut, happened a few years back. It's now like 120 years. So every major film institute on earth published their iteration of the top 100 movies in the history of film. And it was remarkable how much concision there was in the top 20, with some regional differences, but the British Film Institute had, I think, the best list. Because they're British.
Of course.
And they have the wickedly smart people. And the Academy film list is more about box office and celebrity.
Numbers, absolutely.
Right? But the British film industry, you can download that list. And all those films are accessible. There's nothing, living in a world that has Google, there's nothing you can't know.
Yeah, it's research.
20 years ago, Google didn't exist. You had to buy a dictionary. You're buying 100 pounds of knowledge, like sets of books like this. But now everything is open to you, you know? And you can see pretty much anything in the world and in the history of film. Go get that list from the British Film Institute and make it your job to watch a movie a week from that list.
Wow.
But you're watching the best of the best of the best that have been created in our history. And that'll give you one hell of a talking point if you get in front of a director.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If you know, because breakdowns have the name of the producer, the name of the director, the name of the writer, published in the breakdown. If you don't look those people up in the IMDb to cross-reference and find out if you know somebody in common with that person, you're not arming yourself when you meet them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
I research everyone, all the time. Right? It doesn't take long. Now it's like tap, tap, tap.
Yep.
And
fair enough.
I subscribe to the IMDb Pro because it gives me contact information.
Oh, it's worth every penny. Worth every penny.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, these are tools that are accessible, affordable, you know?
Right out there.
There's certain books every actor must read, and I think every director must read. The top of the food chain, Michael Shurtleff, An Actor Prepares. One of the best books. Michael was the first credited casting director on Broadway. He discovered Bette Midler, Barbara Streisand, Dustin Hoffman, Ben Vereen.
To name a few.
Yeah. Gene Hackman. Right? I got to interview all of them.
Wow.
And I came to know them very well. Michael was a godsend. He developed 12 points that actors should research and apply to their scripts to create a fully evolved character in relationship. And so my friend, I made my first film was a documentary on the life of Michael Shurtleff, and also a 4-part acting class covering his method. I filmed his entire acting course, 8 weeks from start to finish in Toronto, and it was the last time he ever taught it.
Wow.
He retired after that.
Wow.
I think I broke him. And Michael was inspirational. He could see right through you.
Yeah.
He had that third eye gift, but he had an amazing affinity. So I had a buddy of mine like to come to set and watch me work. He was a banker. He didn't invest, but, you know, shame on him, but he was a buddy. And so I said, yeah, come to set. So he came to the opening lecture, which I filmed in Ryerson, Jarvis Collegiate in Toronto.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Beautiful auditorium. Stunning murals and great heavy damask curtains and beautiful richness. And I bought a huge King Kamehameha chair, you know, for Michael to sit in and put him on risers in front of the class. And he was fascinated by Michael's method. And he went out and bought Michael's book, read it from cover to cover, and he kept coming back to class. He got to know Michael very well. Now, he still to this day keeps Michael's book, Audition, on his desk at Morgan Stanley, where he is a vice president in London.
Good gosh, wow.
And he says Michael's rules about relationship were the glue that unlocked, the key that unlocked his relationships in business.
All transferable.
He said, his insights were so profound. He said, this is a book about life, and I'm going to use it.
It's beautiful.
And his ascent was spectacular.
Fantastic. Wow.
As a result. So get that book, read Meisner, An Actor Prepares. Stunning book. The exercises are just brilliant. Meisner's about reactivity, really being reactive. That's the truth. Everything that is said, I say often, I want actors to be passive talkers, and very active listeners. Because you wouldn't be saying a thing if you weren't reacting to something.
Interconnected, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you miss the reactions, you know, I have an exercise I make my class do. It requires a very long piece of paper. Toilet paper is kind of perfect because it spools on and out, and it's, you know, we're generally breaking down Canadian scripts, so you know somehow there's an allegory there. I say, go to the far end of your script and write out the last line of dialogue in your script, and you look at it and it doesn't mean anything.
Right. How'd you get there?
But then you put the preceding line, the instigating line, in front of it, and suddenly you go, oh, that is in reaction to this. There's a noun or a verb in your line that is identifying what the subject was that preceded it.
All connected.
And that's the reactive point. So draw just cut through and draw a little link. It links to that. Now cover over the last line, and the preceding line falls out of context. And again, doesn't mean anything until you put the preceding line in front of that.
Yeah.
And you go back from start to finish, and you've got all these bisects. The point of this exercise is that intersecting line is the point at which you're supposed to want to talk, not waiting for the actor to finish, because that creates pauses, which is unnatural, and that looks like acting. But I can see your eyes brighten and you have an urgency to respond, even though I'm still talking. You know, as you know, I always say when I'm doing my classes, actors sit in the room and they're going, "Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I get that. That's good." Or they're going, "This guy's crazy." You know, and it's like, but I can see that they're listening and they're reacting in the moment, always in the sentence, always at the apex of the idea.
Yeah.
Right. So you end up with this echocardiogram, and it is the heartbeat of the script.
On a roll of toilet paper.
Beat, 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 beat.
I love it.
On a roll of toilet
Beautiful,
paper.
beautiful.
You know?
I'm going to navigate us gently to the tail end and the wrap up here, Ron, because we've journeyed for over 2 hours.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And just to say, on behalf of the Eye2Eye International Film Festival, what a delight and an honor and a treat to have you here as our Masterclass speaker this year. And we look forward to more journeys with you through the course of the evolution of this film festival, Ron. Thank you very much. A round of applause for Ms.